Sir, I lost my mommy. The little blonde girl stood trembling before him, tears streaming down her face, pink ribbons in her tangled curls, blue eyes filled with terror. Jack Hammer Reynolds froze. Every shopper in Walmart had walked past this crying child. Every single one. But she chose him, the 6'5" tattooed biker that mothers pulled their children away from. Please, sir, she was crying, then she fell down. She won't wake up. What happened next would change 3 lives forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the end. Comment below which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, back to the story. Jack Hammer Reynolds moved through Walmart's wide aisles with the kind of walk that made people step aside. 22 years in the Hells Angels had given him that walk. You didn't survive that long by looking approachable. His heavy boots thudded against the floor. His arms, covered in faded tattoos that told stories most people didn't want to hear, swung at his sides. His beard, thick and brown with streaks of gray, hadn't been trimmed in weeks. A young mother spotted him from 30 feet away. She grabbed her toddler's hand and pulled him sharply in the opposite direction. Jack noticed. He always noticed. "Mommy, why did that man look so scary?" the little boy asked, his voice carrying. "Shh, don't look at him." Jack's jaw tightened, but he kept walking. He was used to it by now. Didn't mean it stopped hurting. His phone buzzed. A text from his accountant. Chrome supplier confirmed. Good margins this quarter. Shop's doing well. Jack allowed himself a small smile beneath his beard. 18 months ago, he'd walked away from the only life he'd ever known. Gave up his position. Gave up the brotherhood. Gave up the money that came from things he didn't want to think about anymore. Now he ran a legitimate motorcycle repair shop in a small Texas town. Made decent money. Paid his taxes. Slept without nightmares for the first time in 2 decades. Well, most nights. He stopped at a display of leather gloves in the men's section. His old pair was cracking at the knuckles. Occupational hazard when you spent 10 hours a day working on engines. "Yo, check out this dude," someone whispered behind him. Jack didn't turn around. 3 teenage boys, maybe 16, 17, trying to look tough for each other. "Betty's killed someone," one of them said, loud enough to be heard. "Betty's killed a lot of someone's," another laughed nervously. Jack examined a pair of black leather gloves. Good stitching, reinforced palms. These would work. "Hey, mister," the bravest of the 3 called out. "You in a gang or something?" Jack finally turned, just looked at them. Didn't say a word, didn't blink. The boys' bravado evaporated instantly. They practically tripped over each other, backing away. We didn't mean..." They fled toward the electronics section. Jack sighed. This was his life now. Scaring teenagers in department stores. What a legacy. He picked up the gloves and started toward the checkout. That's when he heard it. Crying. Not adult crying. Child crying. The kind of raw, desperate sobbing that cuts through every other sound in the world. Jack slowed his steps. None of his business. He'd learned a long time ago that getting involved in other people's problems never ended well. The crying got louder. He turned the corner into the main aisle. A little girl stood in the middle of the walkway, blonde, curly hair with pink ribbons, most of them coming undone. Maybe 7 years old, tears and snot streaming down her face, her small body shaking with each sob. Shoppers walked past her, one after another. Some glanced down, then quickly looked away. Others didn't even break stride. A woman in yoga pants actually stepped around the crying child, her eyes fixed on her phone. "Please," the little girl whimpered to no one. "Please help me." Nobody stopped. Jack watched a middle-aged man in a business suit walk right past her. Then a grandmother type with a cart full of groceries. Then 2 college-age girls who were too busy taking selfies to notice. Something dark twisted in Jack's gut. 22 years as an outlaw biker, and he'd seen some terrible things. Done some terrible things. But this casual cruelty of regular people ignoring a terrified child, This hit different. He watched one more person walk past. A store employee this time. She actually made eye contact with the crying girl, then deliberately turned and went the other way. "Oh, for God's sake," Jack muttered. He walked toward the little girl. His boots announced his approach like thunder. She looked up. Her eyes went wide with fear, but she didn't run. She was too desperate to run. Jack stopped about 6 feet away, close enough to help, far enough not to tower over her. "Hey there," he pitched his voice as gentle as he could make it, which admittedly still sounded like gravel being crushed. "What's wrong?" The little girl hiccuped. Her blue eyes, God, they were so blue, searched his face, taking in the tattoos, the beard, the sheer size of him. Jack waited. He knew what was coming. She would scream, or run, or both. Instead, she took a shaky step toward him. "Sir, I lost my mommy." Jack blinked. Of all the people in this store, this child had chosen to approach him? "Okay," he said slowly. "When did you last see her?" "She was crying," the little girl's voice cracked. "In the bathroom. She told me to wait outside, but then I heard a bang, like she fell down." Jack's whole body went cold. "She fell down?" The little girl nodded frantically. "I called her name, but she won't answer. She won't wake up, sir. Please, please help my mommy." Jack was moving before he finished processing the words. "Show me, right now." The little girl grabbed his hand, her tiny fingers barely wrapping around two of his, and started pulling him toward the back of the store. "What's your name?" Jack asked as they walked. "Emma." "I'm Jack. Emma, how long ago did your mama fall?" "I don't know." Emma's voice trembled. "A long time. I tried to get help, but nobody would stop. Nobody would listen to me." Jack's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. All those people, all those adults, walking past a crying child asking for help. "I'm listening," he said. "I'm right here. We're going to find your mama." They passed the shoe section, the electronics department. A group of employees chatting by the break room door stopped mid-conversation and stared as Jack barreled past with a little girl in tow. "Sir?" one of them called out. "Sir, is everything?" "Call 911, Jack barked without slowing down. "Tell them there's a woman down in the family restroom. Possible medical emergency." The employees just gaped at him. "Now!" They scattered for their phones. Emma led him to a door marked Family Restroom at the very back of the store. Jack could hear nothing from inside. "Emma, did your mama lock the door?" "I don't think so. She never does. She always wants me to be able to get to her if—" Emma trailed off. Something in the way she said it made Jack's stomach drop. "If what, sweetheart?" Emma looked at the floor. "If the bad man finds us." Jack didn't have time to unpack that. He tried the handle. It turned. "Emma, I need you to stay right here. Can you do that for me?" Her face crumpled. "I want to see Mommy." "I know, baby, I know. But let me make sure she's okay first. I'll be 10 seconds. Count to 10 and I'll come get you. Okay?" Emma nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. She started counting in a whisper. 1, 2. Jack pushed open the door. The first thing he saw was the blood. A woman lay crumpled on the tile floor. Brown hair spread around her head. A gash on her forehead where she must have hit the sink going down. She was pale, too pale, and she wasn't moving. Jack dropped to his knees beside her, pressed 2 fingers against her neck. Pulse, weak, thready, but there. "Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am?" No response. Jack noticed other things now, things his trained eye cataloged automatically. Bruises on her arms, old ones, yellowing, and new ones, purple-black. Finger-shaped bruises, the kind that came from someone grabbing too hard. On the floor beside her, a phone. The screen was cracked, but Jack could see the notifications. 47 missed calls from Derek, do not answer. 23 text messages from the same number. The preview of the most recent text was visible. I will find you. And when I do, you'll wish you'd never been born. Both of you. Jack's blood turned to ice. 8, 9, 10. Emma's voice came from outside. Mr. Jack, can I come in now? Jack quickly positioned himself to block Emma's view of her mother's face. Come here, sweetheart, but stay right by me, okay? Emma rushed in. When she saw her mother on the floor, she started crying again. Mommy! Mommy! She's alive, Jack said firmly. Emma, look at me. Look at my eyes. Emma dragged her gaze up to his face. Your mama is alive. Her heart is beating. She just got hurt when she fell. The ambulance is coming. They're going to help her. But I need you to be brave for just a little bit longer. Can you do that? Emma's chin trembled, but she nodded. That's my girl. Now I need to ask you something important. Who's Derek? Emma's entire body went rigid. Her face drained of color so fast Jack thought she might faint too. Emma, who is Derek? He's my daddy. The word came out like poison. But we don't call him that anymore. He's the bad man. Is he the one who hurt your mama? These bruises on her arms? Emma didn't answer. She didn't have to. The way she wrapped her arms around herself said everything. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Paramedics. Finally. In here, Jack called out. Female, maybe early 30s, unconscious, weak pulse, head laceration from a fall. 2 EMTs pushed through the door. They hesitated for just a second when they saw Jack, covered in tattoos, kneeling over an unconscious woman. But his calm, clinical description seemed to reassure them. Sir, we need you to step back. Jack moved immediately, pulling Emma with him. She has bruising consistent with domestic abuse. The fresh ones are maybe 72 hours old, and there's a phone with threatening messages from someone named Derek. One of the EMTs gave him a sharp look. Are you law enforcement? No, just observant. The other EMT was checking the woman's vitals. BP's dropping. We need to move her now. They loaded her onto a stretcher with practiced efficiency. Jack kept Emma close, his massive hand resting on her tiny shoulder. Mommy? Emma whimpered as they wheeled her mother past. Is there family we can contact? One of the EMTs asked Jack. I just met them 5 minutes ago, but from what I understand, there's a father who shouldn't be anywhere near them. The EMT nodded grimly. He'd probably seen this kind of situation before. We're taking her to Memorial General. You coming? Jack looked down at Emma. Her blue eyes were locked on his face like he was the only solid thing in her entire world. Please don't leave me, she whispered. Everyone always leaves. Something cracked inside Jack's chest, something he thought was permanently hardened over. I'm not going anywhere, he heard himself say. They rode in the back of the ambulance. Emma refused to let go of Jack's hand the entire way. The EMTs worked on her mother, Sarah, according to the ID in her wallet, pumping fluids, monitoring vitals, talking in clipped medical jargon. Jack watched Emma watching her mother. The kid was 7 years old. 7. And she moved with the hypervigilance of a combat veteran. Every sound made her flinch. Every sudden movement made her grab Jack's arm tighter. This was a child who had lived with fear for so long it had become her normal. Mr. Jack? Emma's voice was barely audible over the siren. Yeah, sweetheart? Is my mommy going to die? Jack looked at Sarah's pale face. The EMTs seemed cautiously optimistic, but he'd seen enough death to know that anything could happen. He could lie. It would be easier to lie. I don't know, he said honestly, but these people are really good at their jobs. They're going to do everything they can. And you know what else? What? Your mama's got something worth fighting for. She's got you. That's powerful, Emma. That's the most powerful thing in the world. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she squeezed his hand. You're not like other grown-ups, she said. How do you mean? You don't lie to me. Everyone else lies to kids. They think we don't know, but we do. Jack felt a strange tightness in his throat. Yeah, well, I figure you've been through enough without me adding to it. They reached the hospital. Everything became a blur of fluorescent lights and hurrying nurses and forms that Jack couldn't fill out because he didn't know anything about this woman and her daughter, except that they were running from someone who wanted to hurt them. A social worker appeared, a tired-looking woman in her 50s with kind eyes. I'm Ruth. I understand you found this little girl and her mother? Jack explained everything. The crying child, the unconscious mother, the threatening texts. Ruth's expression grew more serious with each detail. And you have no relation to them? You just stopped to help? Is that so hard to believe? Ruth looked at his tattoos, his beard, his leather vest with the faded motorcycle club patch he couldn't quite bring himself to remove. Honestly, yes. Well, believe it, I was buying gloves. I heard a kid crying. Nobody else was helping. End of story. Emma had been moved to a small waiting room with some toys. She was sitting on the floor, not playing with anything, just staring at the door. The police will want to talk to you, Ruth said. Fine, but I'm not leaving until that kid's mother wakes up. She asked me to stay. I told her I would. You understand how this looks, right? A man with your background, refusing to leave a vulnerable woman and child? Jack met her eyes squarely. I understand exactly how it looks. I also understand that right now, I'm all that little girl has. So unless you've got someone better lined up, I'm staying. Ruth studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw in his face must have convinced her because she nodded slowly. I'll be watching, she said. Not a threat, just a fact. I'd expect nothing less. 2 hours later, a doctor emerged from Sarah's room. Family of Sarah Mitchell? Jack stood up. I found her. Her daughter's right here. The doctor's eyebrows rose at the sight of Jack, but she recovered quickly. She's stable. The head injury looked worse than it was, but she's severely dehydrated, malnourished, and shows signs of chronic stress and multiple healing injuries consistent with... The doctor trailed off, glancing at Emma. I know, Jack said quietly. Someone's been hurting her. Yes, she also has an untreated broken rib that's at least 2 weeks old. However she's been living, it hasn't been sustainable. Can we see her? She's still unconscious, but she should wake up within the hour. You can sit with her if you'd like. I think... The doctor looked at Emma, then back at Jack. I think it might help her to see a friendly face when she wakes up. Jack took Emma's hand. Come on, sweetheart, let's go see your mama. Sarah's hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors. Emma climbed into a chair next to the bed and took her mother's hand. Mommy, I'm here. I found help. Mr. Jack helped me. He's really big and scary looking, but he's nice, Mommy. He didn't leave me like everyone else. Jack stood by the door, arms crossed, feeling like an intruder in this private moment. Emma kept talking to her unconscious mother about the ambulance ride, about how Jack had stayed, about how the nurses gave her juice and graham crackers. Mr. Jack says you have something worth fighting for, Emma said, her voice cracking. He says I'm the most powerful thing. I don't feel very powerful, Mommy. I feel really scared, but I'm trying to be brave, like you taught me. Jack had to look away. There was something in his eye. Dust, probably. Hospital were dusty. About 30 minutes later, Sarah stirred. Emma? Her voice was weak, confused. Mommy! Emma practically threw herself onto the bed. Sarah's eyes flew open and immediately went to Jack's massive figure by the door. Terror flooded her face. Who are you? Emma, get away from him! Emma clung tighter. No, Mommy, he's the good guy. He saved us. Sarah tried to sit up, wincing in pain. Get away from my daughter. I'm calling security. Help! Someone help! Jack didn't move. He held up both hands, palms out. Ma'am, Sarah, my name is Jack. Your daughter found me in Walmart. You collapsed in the bathroom. She asked me to help. I called 911. That's all. Sarah's wild eyes darted between Jack and Emma. It's true, Mommy, Emma said. Remember? I told you when we came in. Mr. Jack stayed the whole time. He held my hand in the ambulance. He didn't leave me, Mommy. Not once. Sarah's breathing was ragged, but slowly, the panic began to fade. You stayed with her? She asked me to, said everyone always leaves. Something broke in Sarah's face. She started crying, deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Emma crawled into the bed beside her, wrapping her small arms around her mother. It's okay, Mommy. It's okay. We're safe now. Mr. Jack won't let the bad man get us. Jack stayed by the door. These two had been through enough without him crowding them. But Sarah's eyes found his through her tears. Why? She asked. Why did you help us? You don't know us. You don't owe us anything. Jack thought about it. He could give her a dozen answers. Because it was the right thing to do. Because her daughter was brave enough to ask. Because he was trying to be a better man. But the truth was simpler than that. Because I walked past people who needed help for 20 years, he said quietly, and I'm done walking past. Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded just once, like something had been decided. His name is Derek, she said, my ex-husband. He's been hunting us for 3 months, and when he finds us, not if, when, he's going to kill me. The monitors beeped steadily. Emma held her mother tight, and Jack, Hammer Reynolds, former Hells Angels enforcer, realized he just walked into a fight he couldn't walk away from. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you have her. Derek Mitchell. The woman is my wife. The child is my daughter. Return them or face the consequences. I have friends everywhere. Jack stared at the message. Then he typed back 3 words. Come and try. Jack's phone buzzed again. Then it didn't stop. Who the hell do you think you are? I will destroy you. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. That woman is mentally ill. She kidnapped my daughter. I have lawyers. I have connections. I will bury you. Jack read each message with the same expression he'd worn in 100 bar fights. Nothing. Complete nothing. Sarah watched him from the hospital bed, her face pale. That's him, isn't it? That's Derek. How'd he get my number? He gets everything. Sarah's voice was hollow. He has a private investigator, former police detective, owes Derek money, so he does whatever Derek asks. Derek probably got your number from the 911 call by now, or the hospital admission, or, Mommy, Emma's voice was small. Is the bad man coming? Sarah pulled her daughter closer. I don't know, baby. He's not getting anywhere near you, Jack said. He powered off his phone and slipped it into his pocket. Either of you. Sarah shook her head. You don't understand. People have tried to help us before. A neighbor called the police once. Derek got her fired from her job. A coworker drove us to a shelter. Derek found out where her kids went to school. She stopped answering my calls after that. I'm not a neighbor, and I'm not a coworker. Then what are you? Jack looked at her, really looked. This woman had been running for 3 months, living in fear, protecting her daughter with everything she had while her own body broke down. I'm someone who doesn't scare easy, he said, and I'm someone who's made a lot of powerful enemies in my life, and I'm still standing. So unless your ex-husband is scarier than the cartels, the FBI, and 3 rival motorcycle gangs combined, I think I can handle him. Sarah stared at him. Who are you? Name's Jack Reynolds. I own a motorcycle repair shop about 20 minutes from here. I'm a former member of the Hells Angels. And before you ask, yes, I've done bad things. A lot of bad things. But I'm trying to be different now. And right now, different means helping you. Why would a biker want to help us? Jack thought about the question. He thought about all the years he'd looked the other way, all the people he could have helped and didn't. Because your daughter walked up to the scariest person in that store and asked for help, he said finally. That took more guts than most grown men have. She deserves someone in her corner. You both do. A nurse knocked on the door. Mrs. Mitchell, there's a police officer here to take your statement. Sarah's eyes went wide with fear. No police. Derek has friends in... It's okay. Jack moved toward the door. I'll talk to him first. See who we're dealing with. The cop in the hallway was young, maybe late 20s, fresh-faced and earnest-looking. His name tag read, Officer Chen. You the one who found the woman? Chen asked. That's right. Need to ask you some questions. Jack crossed his arms. Ask. What's your relationship to Mrs. Mitchell? None. I was shopping. Her daughter asked me for help. I helped. Chen's eyes traveled over Jack's tattoos, his leather vest, his size. Your Hell's Angels? Was, past tense. Uh-huh. Chen didn't look convinced. And you just happened to find this woman? No prior connection? Her 7-year-old daughter was crying in the middle of Walmart. Nobody else stopped. I stopped. That's the whole story. The husband's been calling the station, says his wife is mentally unstable, says she kidnapped their daughter and has been on the run for months, says we should arrest her and return the child to him immediately. Jack felt his hands curl into fists. Did he mention the bruises, the broken rib, the threatening text messages? Chen hesitated. He says she's self-destructive, hurts herself for attention. And you believe that? I'm just telling you what he said. Yeah, well, I've got a 7-year-old girl in there who flinches every time someone raises their voice. I've got a woman with finger-shaped bruises on her arms and a 2-week-old broken rib that never got treated. And I've got 47 missed calls from a man who texted that he's going to kill her when he finds her. So what exactly are you planning to do about that? Chen shifted uncomfortably. The husband is influential. He has connections. I don't care if he's the governor. That woman and her daughter are not going back to him. Sir, I'm not suggesting... Yeah, you are. You're suggesting that maybe it's easier to believe the rich guy with the lawyers than the beaten woman in the hospital bed. I've seen this play out before. It never ends well for the woman. Chen's face flushed. Look, I'm just doing my job. Then do it better. Jack turned his back on the officer and walked back into Sarah's room. She was sitting up now, Emma tucked against her side. What did he say? He said your husband is influential and has connections. Sarah's face crumbled. Of course he does. He always does. He also said Derek is claiming you're mentally unstable and that you kidnapped Emma. That's not true. Mommy didn't kidnap me. Emma's voice was fierce. She saved me. Daddy was the one who... Emma. Sarah's voice was sharp. Don't. Jack knelt down so he was eye level with Emma. Don't what, sweetheart? What did your daddy do? Emma looked at her mother. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded slowly. He hurt Mommy, Emma whispered, all the time, and he said if I ever told anyone, he'd hurt her worse. He said he'd make her disappear and I'd never see her again. Jack felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. The same feeling he used to get before a fight, the absolute certainty that someone needed to be stopped. He ever hurt you, Emma? Emma shook her head. He pushed me once, when I tried to help Mommy, but mostly he made me watch. He said it was my fault, that Mommy got hurt because I was bad. Sarah was crying silently now. I tried to leave so many times, but he always found us. The shelters, the hotels, my sister's house. He found us everywhere. And every time he found us, it got worse. Where's your sister now? She stopped talking to me. Derek told her I was on drugs, that I was dangerous. He showed her fake medical records. By the time I could explain, she'd already believed him. Jack stood up. Pack your things, we're leaving. Sarah blinked. What? The cop outside is going to file a report that goes nowhere. Your husband is going to keep calling in favors, and eventually someone is going to decide it's easier to hand you back to him than to deal with the paperwork. So we're leaving. Now. And going where? My shop. I've got an apartment upstairs. It's small, but it's secure, and I know people who can help. Why would you do this? You don't even know us. Jack looked at Emma. She was watching him with those big blue eyes, terrified and hopeful at the same time. Because she asked me to, he said simply, and I told her I wouldn't leave. 30 minutes later, Sarah was discharged against medical advice. Jack carried Emma on one arm and supported Sarah with the other as they walked out a side entrance. His truck was parked 3 blocks away. He'd texted one of his guys to bring it around, no questions asked. When they reached it, Sarah hesitated. If I get in this truck, there's no going back. Derek will find out I left with you. He'll use it against me. He's already threatening to kill you. How much worse can it get? Sarah let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You'd be surprised. Get in the truck, Sarah. Let me worry about Derek. She looked at her daughter. Emma was already climbing into the back seat, her small face set with determination. Mommy, Mr. Jack promised, and he keeps his promises. He told me. Sarah took a deep breath. Then she got in the truck. Jack drove carefully, checking his mirrors every few seconds. No one seemed to be following them. Tell me everything, he said, from the beginning. How did you meet him? Sarah's voice was distant. College. He was charming, successful. My parents loved him. Everyone loved him. The first time he hit me was 3 months after our wedding. And you stayed? I was pregnant with Emma. I had nowhere else to go. He controlled all the money. He'd isolated me from my friends, and he kept telling me it was my fault, that if I was just better, he wouldn't have to hurt me. Jack's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. It got worse after Emma was born. He was jealous of her. Can you imagine? Jealous of a baby? He said I paid more attention to her than to him, so he started making me choose. If I comforted Emma when she cried, he'd punish me later. Jesus. I learned to keep her quiet, to make sure she never bothered him. I thought I was protecting her, but really I was teaching her to live in fear, just like me. In the back seat, Emma was staring out the window. Jack wondered how much of this she'd already known. Probably all of it. Kids always knew more than adults gave them credit for. 3 months ago, he came home drunk, angrier than I'd ever seen him. He lost a big business deal. He blamed me somehow. He always blamed me. He had his hands around my throat, and Emma was screaming, and I thought, this is it. This is how I die. Sarah's voice cracked. But then he stopped. Just stopped. He looked at Emma and he smiled. He said, don't worry, sweetheart. Daddy's just teaching Mommy a lesson. And something in me snapped. I knew right then that someday he was going to kill me in front of my daughter, and she was going to grow up thinking that was normal. So you ran. I waited until he passed out, took $400 from his wallet, grabbed Emma and our go bag, and ran. We've been moving ever since. Shelters, motels, sleeping in the car. He found us twice. The first time I managed to get away before he reached us. The second time, she pushed up her sleeve. Jack saw the yellowing bruises. He caught me outside a gas station, dragged me behind the building, told me next time he'd finish the job. And the police? He files reports everywhere we go, says I'm mentally ill, that I've kidnapped Emma. He's got documentation, medical records, character witnesses, all fake or bought. The cops always believe him. He's a respectable businessman in a nice suit. I'm a homeless woman who looks like she hasn't slept in weeks. They pulled up to Jack's shop, Reynolds Motorcycle Repair, a modest building with a garage bay and a small apartment above it. This is it, Jack said. It's not much, but... It's safe? Sarah asked. Safer than anywhere else you've been. He got them settled in the apartment. It was clean but sparse. A bed, a couch, a small kitchen. Emma immediately curled up on the couch, exhausted. I need to make a call, Jack said. There's food in the fridge, nothing fancy, but help yourself. He stepped outside and dialed a number he hadn't called in 3 years. It rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. Well, Jack Hammer Reynolds. Thought you were dead. Not yet, Ghost. Marcus Ghost Taylor laughed. Man, I haven't heard from you since you went straight. What's going on? You in trouble? Not me. Someone else. Someone who needs help. What kind of help? Jack explained everything. The woman, the child, the abusive husband, the threats. Ghost was quiet for a long moment when he finished. You know I work for a women's rights law firm now, right? That's why I'm calling. This is serious stuff, Hammer. If this guy's as connected as you say, he's going to come after you hard. Let him. Ghost laughed again, but there was no humor in it. Same old Hammer. All right, I'll pull some strings. See if I can get emergency protective orders filed. But it's going to take time. How much time? Couple of days, maybe a week. She might not have a week. Then you're going to have to keep her safe until the paperwork comes through. Can you do that? Jack looked up at the apartment window. He could see Emma's silhouette moving inside. Yeah, he said, I can do that. He hung up and stood there for a moment, watching the sun set behind the buildings. His old life had been simple. Violent, but simple. See a problem, solve it with force. No paperwork, no lawyers, no waiting. But that life had also left a trail of bodies in broken lives. He couldn't go back to that, not even for them. His phone buzzed. He turned it back on to call Ghost, and now the messages were flooding in again. But this one wasn't from Derek. It was from a number he didn't recognize, with a photo attached. A photo of his shop, taken from across the street, time-stamped 15 minutes ago. The message read, I know where you are. She's mine. The kid is mine. You have 24 hours to return them, or I'll come get them myself. Jack looked at the photo again, studied the angle. Whoever took it had been standing right across the street. He turned slowly, scanning the area. Nothing. No cars that didn't belong. No figures in the shadows. But someone had been here. Someone had been watching. He walked back inside and locked the door. Then he pulled out a case from under his bed. Inside was a baseball bat, a taser, and a shotgun he hadn't touched in 2 years. He loaded the shotgun and set it by the door. Then he sat down in a chair facing the entrance and waited. Upstairs, Emma was finally asleep. Sarah sat beside her, stroking her hair. She didn't know about the photo. She didn't know someone had been watching. But she knew something had changed. When Jack came back inside, his face was different, harder, colder. What is it? She asked. Nothing. Get some rest. Don't lie to me. I've had enough lies to last a lifetime. Jack looked at her. This woman who had been beaten, isolated, and hunted, who had still found the strength to run, to protect her daughter, to keep fighting. She deserved the truth. He found us, Jack said, or someone working for him did. They were watching the shop. Sarah didn't scream, didn't cry. She just nodded, like she'd been expecting it. How long do we have? He gave me 24 hours. And then he's coming himself. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to where Jack was sitting. I won't let you die for us, she said. We'll leave, disappear again. It's what we do. And keep running forever? Keep watching your daughter grow up terrified? No. You don't have a choice. Yeah, I do. And I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing to fight, because that's the only way this ends. Sarah's eyes were bright with tears. Why? Why do you care so much about strangers? Jack thought about all the people he'd hurt over the years, all the families he'd destroyed without a second thought, all the times he'd told himself it was just business, just the life, just the way things were. Because I spent 20 years being the monster, he said, and I'm tired of it. I want to be something else, someone else. And right now that means being the guy who protects people like you instead of hurting them. Sarah reached out and touched his arm. Just briefly, just enough to let him know she understood. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when it's over." She went back upstairs to be with Emma. Jack sat in the darkness, shotgun across his lap, waiting for whatever came next. At 3:47 a.m., someone tried the door handle. It rattled once, twice, then stopped. Jack rose silently, weapon raised. A voice came through the door. Not Derek's, someone else. "Reynolds, we know you're in there. You've got something that belongs to someone very important. Be smart about this." Jack didn't answer. "Last chance," the voice said. "Hand them over and walk away. Nobody has to get hurt." Jack's finger moved to the trigger. The voice laughed softly. "Have it your way." Footsteps retreated into the darkness. Jack waited until dawn, never moving from his position. When the sun came up, he found a note slipped under the door. 2 words, "Clock's ticking." Jack picked up the note and crumpled it in his fist. 24 hours had become 12. These people weren't playing games. He made breakfast for Sarah and Emma like nothing had happened. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, normal things, safe things. "Did you sleep at all?" Sarah asked, noticing the shadows under his eyes. "Enough." She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. Emma ate her eggs quietly, watching Jack with those knowing eyes. "Someone came last night," she said. "I heard them at the door." Sarah's fork clattered against her plate. "What?" "It's handled," Jack said. "Handled how?" "They left. That's all that matters." Sarah stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "You can't keep things from me. Not about this. Not about him." "I'm not keeping anything from you. Someone came to the door. They made threats. They left. I stayed up to make sure they didn't come back. That's the whole story." "What kind of threats?" Jack looked at Emma. The little girl was watching them both, her eggs forgotten. "Emma, sweetheart, can you go watch TV in the other room for a few minutes?" "I already know he wants to hurt us," Emma said quietly. "You don't have to pretend." Something twisted in Jack's chest. 7 years old, and she already understood things no child should have to understand. "You're right," he said. "I'm sorry, I won't pretend." He turned to Sarah. "They want you back. They gave me until tonight. After that, they're coming in force." Sarah's face went white. "We should run, right now. Pack everything in. And go where? Another shelter? Another motel? He'll find you again. He always finds you. Running isn't working, Sarah." "Then what do we do?" Jack's phone rang. Ghost's name flashed on the screen. "Tell me you've got something," Jack said. "Better than something. I've got a miracle." Ghost's voice was tense with excitement. "Emergency custody hearing. Today. 3 o'clock. Judge Morrison's court." "Today? How?" "Let's just say I called in every favor I've ever earned. But there's a catch. Sarah has to testify, and the judge is going to want to hear from Emma too." Jack looked at the little girl sitting at the table. "She's 7 years old." "I know, but her testimony could make the difference. If she can tell the judge what she saw, what she experienced, it's powerful stuff, Hammer. More powerful than any lawyer's argument." "And if Derek's there?" "He'll be there, with his legal team. 3 lawyers last I heard, plus character witnesses." "What do we have?" "Me, some hospital records, and the truth." Jack was quiet for a moment. "That's not enough." "It might have to be, unless you've got something else." Jack thought about the threatening texts, the photo of his shop, the note under the door. All of it was circumstantial. None of it proved Derek was dangerous. Then he remembered something Sarah had said. "The neighbor," he said. "You mentioned a neighbor who called the police once. Derek got her fired." Sarah nodded slowly. "Betty Morrison. She lived next door to us for 3 years. She saw a lot." "Would she testify?" "She was terrified. Derek made sure of that. People can change their minds. Where does she live now?" Sarah gave him an address, a retirement community about 40 minutes away. Ghost, I need 2 more hours. The hearing's at 3, you can't be late. I won't be. He hung up and grabbed his keys. Where are you going? Sarah asked. To get us a witness. Betty Morrison was 72 years old with silver hair and hands that shook when she opened her door. When she saw Jack standing there, she tried to slam it shut. Jack caught the door with one hand. Ma'am, I'm not here to hurt you. I know who you are. You're one of them. One of those bikers. Yes, ma'am, I am. But I'm also trying to help Sarah Mitchell and her daughter. And I think you want to help them too. Betty's eyes filled with tears. I can't. You don't understand what he did to me, what he's capable of. I understand exactly what he's capable of. That's why I need your help. He got me fired from a job I'd had for 18 years. He told my landlord I was dealing drugs. I lost my apartment, my reputation, everything. And that's terrible. What he did to you was wrong, but what he did to Sarah and Emma was worse. And he's going to keep doing it unless someone stops him. Betty shook her head. The police don't care. The courts don't care. Men like him always win. Not today. Today we've got a chance, a real chance, but only if someone who saw what happened is willing to tell the truth. Why should I risk everything again? Jack thought about the question. He could lie. He could manipulate. He'd done both plenty of times in his old life, but he was trying to be different now. Because that little girl is 7 years old, he said quietly, and she asked me for help. She walked up to the scariest person she could find and begged me to save her mother. That took more courage than I've ever had. She deserves someone to fight for her. Sarah deserves someone to fight for her. And I think, deep down, you want to be that someone. You've just been too scared to try. Betty was crying now, silent tears rolling down her weathered cheeks. I heard that little girl screaming, she whispered. For 3 years I heard her screaming, and I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself someone else would help, but no one ever did. You can help now. It's not too late. Betty looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Give me 10 minutes to change. They arrived at the courthouse at 2:47. Ghost was waiting outside, pacing nervously. Cutting it close, Hammer. Got stuck in traffic. This is Betty Morrison. She's going to testify. Ghost's eyebrows shot up. The neighbor? How did you? Doesn't matter. What matters is she's here. Sarah and Emma were already inside with a court-appointed advocate. When Jack walked in, Emma ran to him. Mr. Jack, I was scared you weren't coming. I told you I wouldn't leave, remember? She hugged his legs tight. I remember. Sarah was sitting on a bench, pale and trembling. He's here, she whispered. Derek's here. I saw him in the hallway. Good. Let him see you. Let him see that you're not running anymore. I'm terrified. That's okay. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do it anyway. Emma tugged on his hand. That's what I told Mommy. I told her you said that. Jack knelt down to her level. Emma, the judge is going to want to talk to you. Can you do that? Can you tell her the truth about what happened? Emma's face was serious. Will it help, Mommy? It might be the only thing that can. Then I'll do it. The courtroom was smaller than Jack expected, less formal. A family court designed to handle custody disputes, not criminal trials. Judge Patricia Hayes sat at the bench, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. Jack had done some research on the way over. She'd been a family court judge for 23 years. She'd seen everything. Derek Mitchell sat at the opposite table with his legal team. 3 lawyers in expensive suits, 2 character witnesses, a business partner, and a church deacon. Derek himself was wearing a perfectly tailored gray suit, his hair neatly combed, his face arranged in an expression of concerned fatherhood. He looked nothing like a monster. But Jack had known plenty of monsters who wore nice suits. Derek's eyes found Sarah across the room. He smiled. A small, private smile that made Sarah's whole body go rigid. All rise, the bailiff called. The hearing began. Derek's lead attorney, a silver-haired man named Harrison, went first. His voice was smooth as honey. Your Honor, my client is a devoted father whose mentally unstable wife kidnapped their daughter 3 months ago. He has been searching desperately for them ever since. All he wants is to be reunited with his child and to ensure that both his daughter and his wife receive the help they need. Harrison presented documents, medical records showing Sarah had been treated for anxiety and depression, statements from Derek's colleagues about what a wonderful father he was, a report from a private investigator detailing Sarah's erratic behavior over the past 3 months. It was all lies, but it looked official. It looked real. Ghost stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that Mr. Mitchell has a history of domestic violence against his wife. Harrison laughed. What evidence? There are no police reports, no criminal charges, no restraining orders. Mrs. Mitchell never once reported any abuse. Because she was afraid. Because Mr. Mitchell controls the money, the police, the objection, speculation. Sustained. Judge Hayes looked at Ghost. Counselor, do you have actual evidence or just accusations? Ghost pulled out the hospital records. These show a pattern of injuries consistent with domestic abuse. 4 different hospitals in 3 states over the course of 7 years. Harrison didn't even blink. My client's wife has a history of self-harm. These injuries were self-inflicted. We have documentation from her psychiatrist. A psychiatrist employed by Mr. Mitchell's company, Ghost interrupted. That's irrelevant. Judge Hayes held up her hand. Enough, both of you. She looked at Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, I'd like to hear from you directly. Can you tell me, in your own words, why you took your daughter and left? Sarah stood up slowly. Her legs were shaking. Her voice was barely audible. Because he was going to kill me. Can you speak up, please? Sarah took a deep breath. Because he was going to kill me. He had his hands around my throat. My daughter was screaming. And I knew that if I didn't leave right then, I would die in front of my child. Derek shook his head sadly, the picture of a wronged husband. Mrs. Mitchell, Harrison said, standing up, isn't it true that you have a history of paranoid delusions? That you've been medicated for? I was medicated because my husband wanted me sedated. Sarah's voice was stronger now. I was diagnosed with conditions I didn't have because he paid doctors to say whatever he wanted. Everything in those records is a lie. So everyone is lying except you? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Harrison turned to the judge with a patronizing smile. Your Honor, I think we can see why my client is concerned about his wife's mental state. Judge Hayes's expression was unreadable. Is there anyone else who can corroborate Mrs. Mitchell's claims? Ghost stood up. Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to call Betty Morrison to the stand. Derek's head snapped toward his lawyers. This clearly wasn't something they'd expected. Betty walked to the witness stand, her hands trembling. She avoided looking at Derek. Mrs. Morrison, Ghost said gently, can you tell the court your relationship to the Mitchell family? I was their neighbor for 3 years. I lived in the house next to theirs. And during that time, did you ever witness anything unusual? Betty was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice cracked. I heard screaming. Almost every night, Sarah begging him to stop. The little girl crying, things breaking. She wiped her eyes. I called the police once. They came, but Derek told them everything was fine. They believed him. What happened after that? Derek came to my house the next day. He told me that if I ever called the police again, he would destroy my life. Betty's voice broke. And he did. He got me fired. He spread rumors. He made sure everyone thought I was crazy. But you're here today. Why? Betty finally looked at Sarah, at Emma. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. Because I heard that little girl screaming for 3 years and I did nothing. I was too scared. But I can't be scared anymore. Not when she finally has someone willing to help her. Derek's lawyers were whispering frantically among themselves. "Your Honor," Harrison said, standing up, "this witness is clearly biased. She admitted she has a grudge against my client. She admitted that your client threatened and retaliated against her," Ghost corrected. "That's not a grudge. That's a pattern of behavior." Judge Hayes banged her gavel. "Order! Mr. Harrison, sit down. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything else?" Ghost nodded. "One more witness, Your Honor. We'd like to call Emma Mitchell." The courtroom went silent. Derek stood up. "Absolutely not. You can't put a 7-year-old child on the stand. That's—" "Mr. Mitchell, sit down!" Judge Hayes's voice cut through the room like a knife. "I will decide what's appropriate in my courtroom." Emma walked forward slowly. She looked so small, so fragile, but her chin was up and her eyes were clear. "Emma," Judge Hayes said gently, "do you understand why you're here?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm here to tell the truth." "That's right. And you know the difference between the truth and a lie? The truth is what really happened. A lie is when you say something that didn't happen." "Good. Now, Emma, I want you to tell me about your daddy. What was it like living with him?" Emma's hands were clasped tight in her lap. Her voice was small but steady. "Daddy hurt Mommy. A lot. He thought I didn't see, but I saw everything." Derek's face was turning red. His lawyers grabbed his arm to keep him seated. "What did you see, Emma?" "He hit her. He pushed her. He choked her. Sometimes she couldn't get out of bed the next day because it hurt too much." "Did your daddy ever hurt you?" "He pushed me once, when I tried to help Mommy. But mostly he made me watch. He said it was my fault. That Mommy got hurt because I was bad." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Hayes's face had hardened. "Is there anything else you want to tell me, Emma?" Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she looked directly at Derek. "Daddy, I'm scared of you. I've always been scared of you. Mr. Jack makes me feel safe. He reads me stories. He taught me to change a tire. He never yells. He never hits. He promised he would protect us, and he keeps his promises." She turned back to the judge. "Please don't make me go back to the bad house. Please." The courtroom was dead silent. Several people were crying openly. Derek couldn't contain himself anymore. He shot to his feet, face twisted with rage. "This is ridiculous. I'm her father. That criminal has brainwashed my family." "Mr. Mitchell, sit down." "No, she's my daughter. She's my property, just like her mother was. I own them." The words hung in the air like poison. Judge Hayes's eyes narrowed to slits. "Did you just refer to your child and ex-wife as property?" Derek realized his mistake too late. His lawyers were burying their faces in their hands. "I didn't mean, that came out wrong." "It came out exactly how you meant it," Judge Hayes said coldly. Ghost seized the moment. "Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence." He pulled out his phone. "A video taken by another neighbor. It was sent to us this morning." He pressed play. The video was grainy, shot from across the street, but the content was unmistakable. Derek dragging Sarah by her hair across a driveway, Sarah screaming, Emma running after them, crying, trying to pull her mother free, Derek throwing Sarah into the house, the door slamming, the muffled sounds of something terrible happening inside. The video was 37 seconds long. It felt like an eternity. When it ended, no one moved. Derek was on his feet again. That's doctored. Someone faked that. I never..." "The metadata shows it was recorded 18 months ago," Ghost said. "The witness who took it is willing to testify to its authenticity." "This is a setup," Derek screamed. He lunged toward Sarah. "You did this. You turned everyone against me." The bailiff moved to intercept him, but Jack was faster. He put himself between Derek and Sarah. One massive hand caught Derek's fist mid-swing. Derek struggled, but Jack's grip was iron. "You will never touch them again," Jack said quietly. Derek swung with his other hand. Jack didn't hit back. He just held Derek immobilized until the bailiff and two security guards took over. "Get your hands off me! Do you know who I am?" They dragged him toward the door, still screaming. Judge Hayes watched the whole thing with an expression of cold fury. "Court will recess for 15 minutes. When we return, I will deliver my ruling." The longest 15 minutes of Jack's life. Emma climbed into his lap in the hallway. Sarah sat beside him, crying silently. "Did I do good?" Emma asked. "You did amazing, sweetheart. You were so brave." "Is the bad man going to jail?" "I don't know yet, but whatever happens, he's not going to hurt you or your mommy ever again." Ghost approached them, looking cautiously optimistic. "The judge is furious. That outburst, the video, his own words about property. I've never seen a case turn this fast." "What do you think she'll decide?" "I think Derek Mitchell just destroyed himself, but judges can be unpredictable. We won't know until she speaks." The 15 minutes passed like hours. When they returned to the courtroom, Derek was gone, removed by security. His lawyers remained, looking shell-shocked. Judge Hayes took her seat. Her face was stone. "In my 23 years on this bench," she began, "I have seen parents lie. I have seen children manipulated. I have seen money and power corrupt the pursuit of justice. But I have never seen such a blatant attempt to weaponize the legal system against a victim of domestic violence." She looked directly at Derek's legal team. "You should be ashamed. Every single one of you." She turned to Sarah. "Mrs. Mitchell, I am awarding you full and sole custody of your daughter Emma. I am issuing an emergency protective order against Derek Mitchell, effective immediately. He is to have no contact with you or your daughter. Period." Sarah started sobbing. "Furthermore, I am referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of domestic violence, witness tampering, and contempt of court. I am also reporting Mr. Mitchell's attorneys to the state bar for ethical violations." Judge Hayes looked at Jack. "Mr. Reynolds, you put yourself between Mrs. Mitchell and her attacker. You didn't throw a punch. You didn't escalate. You simply protected. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." She banged her gavel. "Court is adjourned." Emma threw her arms around Jack's neck. "We won, Mr. Jack. We won!" Jack held her tight. Tears he'd been holding back for 40 years finally broke free. "Yeah, sweetheart, we won." The weeks after the hearing passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls and small victories that added up to something like hope. Derek Mitchell was arrested 2 days after his courtroom meltdown. The district attorney moved fast, especially after 3 more women came forward with stories eerily similar to Sarah's. Women who had been too afraid to speak before. Women who saw the news coverage and finally felt safe enough to tell the truth. Jack watched the arrest on the evening news. Derek in handcuffs, being led out of his office building. His face was twisted with rage, but for the first time, he looked small, powerless. Just another man facing consequences for his actions. Emma was sitting beside Jack on the couch. She watched the screen without blinking. "Is he going to jail?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart, for a long time." "Good." There was no satisfaction in her voice, no revenge, just relief. The relief of a child who had carried too much fear for too long. Sarah stood in the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself. She was crying again, but these tears were different. These tears were release. "It's really over," she whispered. "I keep waiting to wake up." "It's not a dream," Jack said. "It's real. You're safe, both of you." Sarah walked over and sat down on Jack's other side. For a long moment, the 3 of them just sat there together, watching the news cycle move on to the next story. "What happens now?" Emma asked. Jack looked at Sarah. She looked back at him. Neither of them had an answer. "I guess we figure it out together," Jack finally said. The first month was the hardest. Sarah had nightmares almost every night. She would wake up screaming, convinced Derek was standing over her bed. Jack would hear her through the thin walls of the apartment above his shop, and he would text her the same message every time. "You're safe. He can't hurt you. I'm right downstairs if you need me." Sometimes she came downstairs. Sometimes she just texted back a single word. "Thanks." Emma adjusted faster than her mother, the way children often do. She started sleeping through the night after the first week. She stopped flinching at loud noises after the second. By the end of the month, she was laughing again, really laughing. The sound filled Jack's shop like music. "Mr. Jack, watch this." She would do a cartwheel or show off a drawing or recite something she'd learned in school. And Jack would stop whatever he was doing and give her his full attention. Because he understood that this child had spent years being invisible, and she deserved to be seen. Ghost came by every few days with updates on the legal case. Derek's lawyers had abandoned him. His business partners were distancing themselves. His carefully constructed life was crumbling piece by piece. "The DA is pushing for 15 years, Ghost said one evening. "Could be more, depending on how the other cases shake out." 15 years, Sarah repeated. The number seemed to mean something to her. Emma will be 22. She'll be an adult. She'll never have to be afraid of him again. That's the idea. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Ghost. "I want to help. Other women like me, women who think they have no way out." Ghost raised an eyebrow. "What did you have in mind?" "I don't know yet, but I know what it's like to feel trapped, to have everyone believe your abuser instead of you. I want to help women navigate that. I want to be the person I needed 3 months ago." Ghost smiled. "You know, our firm has been looking for a client advocate, someone who understands what survivors go through. It doesn't pay much, but I'll take it." And just like that, Sarah Mitchell started rebuilding her life. 2 months after the hearing, Sarah and Emma moved into a small apartment about 10 minutes from Jack's shop. It wasn't much, a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a building with a broken elevator, but it was theirs. No man's name on the lease, no one else's permission needed. Jack helped them move. So did Ghost. So did 3 of Jack's employees, former bikers who had been trying to go straight, just like him. "This is weird," one of them said as they carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs. "Usually when we show up somewhere, people run away. This lady's feeding us sandwiches." "Times change," Jack said. "We change." Emma claimed the smaller bedroom and immediately covered the walls with drawings, flowers, butterflies, a motorcycle, a big bearded man standing next to a small blonde girl. "That's us," she told Jack proudly. "That's our family." Jack stared at the drawing for a long time. He didn't trust his voice to speak. Sarah found him on the fire escape that evening, watching the sun go down. "She loves you," Sarah said. "You know that, right?" "She barely knows me." Kids know what they need, and what she needed was someone who wouldn't leave. Someone who would stand up for her when no one else would. "You did that. You are that." Jack was quiet for a moment. "I spent 20 years hurting people, breaking families apart. I don't deserve—" "Stop," Sarah's voice was sharp. "You don't get to decide what you deserve, not based on who you used to be, only based on who you are now." "And who am I now?" Sarah smiled. "You're the man my daughter wants to be when she grows up. That's who you are." The Sunday dinners started by accident. Emma invited Jack over one weekend because she wanted to show him a science project she was working on. Sarah made pot roast because it was the only thing she knew how to cook that didn't come from a box. Jack brought chocolate chip cookies from the bakery near his shop because he didn't know what else to bring. The next Sunday, it happened again. And the Sunday after that, until it wasn't an accident anymore. It was tradition. "Mr. Jack, do you want to hear about what we learned in science class?" "Always." "Mr. Jack, can you help me with this math problem?" "Let me see." "Mr. Jack, will you teach me how to fix a motorcycle?" "When you're older." "How much older?" "When your legs can reach the pedals." Emma thought about this. "What about a bicycle? My legs can reach those pedals." "Deal." They went to the park that afternoon. Jack held the back of Emma's seat while she wobbled down the path, her face scrunched up in concentration. "Don't let go." "I won't let go." "Promise?" "Promise." She pedaled harder. Jack let go. She didn't fall. She just kept going, faster and faster, until she was laughing with pure joy. "Mr. Jack, I'm doing it. I'm really doing it." "I knew you could." She circled back and skidded to a stop in front of him, breathless and grinning. "You let go," she said. "Yeah. You said you wouldn't." Sometimes people need to know they can do things on their own, even when they think they can't. Emma considered this with the seriousness of a 7-year-old philosopher. "That's a good lesson," she decided. "Can we get ice cream now?" "Absolutely." 3 months after the hearing, Jack got a phone call from a woman he'd never met. "My name is Linda," she said. Her voice was shaking. "A friend told me about you, about what you did for that woman and her little girl. I need help. My husband, he's going to kill me if I don't get out. But I don't know how. I don't have anywhere to go." Jack thought about saying no. This wasn't his responsibility. He'd helped Sarah and Emma because of circumstances beyond his control. That didn't make him a social worker. But then he thought about Emma's face in that Walmart, the tears, the desperation, the trust she'd placed in a complete stranger because no one else would stop. "Where are you right now?" he asked. "A gas station on Route 7. I told him I was going to buy milk." "Stay there. I'm on my way." He picked up Linda and her 2 sons that night, brought them to his shop, called Ghost, started the process all over again. A week later, another call. A woman named Teresa who had escaped from her boyfriend in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on her back. Then another, and another. Word spread through whisper networks, the kind that only existed among people who understood what it meant to be hunted. If you're running from someone dangerous, go to Reynolds Repair. The big biker will help you. He won't hurt you. He keeps his promises. Jack converted the storage room behind his shop into an emergency shelter. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a bathroom, a lock on the door. But for women who had been sleeping in their cars or hiding in alleys, it was a sanctuary. His employees, the former bikers, the recovering addicts, the men who were trying to be better, took shifts keeping watch. They called themselves the Guardian Angels, which started as a joke but became something real. "This is crazy," Ghost said one evening, looking around at the organized chaos Jack's life had become. "You've built an entire underground railroad for abuse survivors." "I just answer the phone when it rings." "You do a lot more than that. You give these women hope. You show them that not everyone is going to hurt them." "I'm just trying to make up for all the years I spent making things worse." Ghost shook his head. "You know, I've seen a lot of people try to change. Most of them fail. They talk about being different, but when things get hard, they go back to what they know." He paused. "You're not like them. You actually did it. You actually changed." "I had help. We all need help. The difference is whether we accept it." 6 months after the courthouse victory, Sarah brought Emma to Jack's shop for their usual Sunday dinner. But this time, there was something different in Sarah's eyes. Nervousness mixed with excitement. "Emma has something she wants to show you," Sarah said. Emma was practically bouncing. "Close your eyes, Mr. Jack." "Why?" "Just do it." Jack closed his eyes. He heard rustling paper, whispered instructions. Emma's barely contained giggles. "Okay, open them." Emma was holding a large piece of poster board. On it she had drawn 3 figures standing in front of a house. A tall man with a beard and colorful arms. A woman with brown hair and a big smile. A small blonde girl between them, holding both their hands. At the top, in careful crayon letters, she had written, "My family." "That's us," Emma said. "You, me, and Mommy. That's our family now." Jack couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. "Do you like it?" Emma asked, her confidence faltering slightly. "If you don't like it, I can..." Jack knelt down and pulled her into a hug. He held her tight, this little girl who had changed everything, and he didn't try to hide the tears streaming into his beard. "I love it," he managed to say. "It's the best thing anyone's ever given me." Emma hugged him back. "I love you, Mr. Jack." "I love you too, sweetheart." Sarah was crying too. She came over and wrapped her arms around both of them, and they stayed like that for a long time. Three people who had found each other by accident and chosen to become a family on purpose. That night, after Emma fell asleep on the couch with her head in Jack's lap, Sarah handed him an envelope. "Emma wrote this for a school assignment," she said. "The topic was, 'My hero.' I thought you should see it." Jack opened the envelope with trembling hands. The paper inside was lined, the handwriting careful but slightly crooked. At the top, Emma had written, "My hero," by Emma Mitchell, age 7. "My hero is Mr. Jack. He looks scary, but he's the kindest person I know. When I was little and my daddy hurt my mommy, I was always scared. Nobody would help us. Everybody walked past. Then one day my mommy fell down in a store, and I was really scared. I asked lots of grown-ups for help, but they all said no or walked away. Then I saw Mr. Jack. He was really big and had tattoos, and everyone was scared of him. But I went up to him anyway because I didn't have any other choice. And he didn't walk away. He stopped. He helped. He saved my mommy's life. Mr. Jack taught me that real strength isn't about being tough. It's about being brave enough to help people even when it's hard. He says everyone deserves someone in their corner. Now he's in our corner, and we're in his. That's what family means. When I grow up, I want to be like Mr. Jack. I want to help people who are scared. I want to be the person who stops when everyone else walks past. Thank you, Mr. Jack, for not walking away. Thank you for staying when everyone else left. You're the best hero in the whole world." Jack read it 3 times. Then he carefully folded the paper and put it in his jacket pocket, right over his heart. "She means every word," Sarah said softly. "We both do." Jack looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. He looked at Sarah, the fear finally gone from her eyes. He looked at his own hands, hands that had hurt so many people, now being used to build something good. "I don't know how to be a hero," he said. "You already are one. You just didn't know it yet." Sarah reached over and took his hand. "Stay," she said. "Not just for tonight, not just for Sunday dinners. Stay." Jack looked at her, this woman who had survived hell, who had fought for her daughter, who had somehow found the strength to trust again. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I come with a lot of baggage. My past isn't pretty." "Neither is mine. But we're not our past. We're what we choose to do next." Jack thought about all the choices he'd made in his life. The good ones, the bad ones, the ones he couldn't take back. This felt like the most important choice of all. "Okay," he said, "I'll stay." Sarah smiled. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Good, because Emma's already planning what she's going to call you." "What do you mean?" "She asked me yesterday if it would be okay to call you Dad. I told her she'd have to ask you herself." Jack's heart stopped, then started again, then stopped again. "She wants to call me Dad? Only if you're okay with it." Was he okay with it? This man who had never had a family of his own, who had spent 2 decades in a brotherhood built on violence and fear, who had never once imagined himself as anyone's father. "Yeah," he heard himself say, "I'm okay with it." Sarah squeezed his hand. Emma stirred in her sleep, murmured something unintelligible, and snuggled closer. Outside, the sun was setting over the small Texas town. The same sun that had risen on Jack's darkest days was now setting on the beginning of something new. He wasn't the same man who had walked into that Walmart 6 months ago. He wasn't the enforcer, the intimidator, the monster people crossed the street to avoid. He was something else now. He was a father. He was family. He was home. Jack's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it, expecting something from Ghost about paperwork or court dates. Instead, it was from an unknown number. Derek Mitchell was attacked in prison last night. He's alive, but barely. Thought you should know. The woman he hurt most, his first wife, her brother is an inmate at the same facility. Justice has a way of finding people. Jack read the message twice. Then he deleted it. Some things didn't need to be discussed. Some debts got paid without anyone asking. He looked at Emma sleeping in his lap, at Sarah watching them both with love in her eyes. Derek Mitchell would survive. He would spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, knowing that his sins had followed him behind bars. But that was Derek's story. This was Jack's story now, and it was just beginning. 1 year passed faster than Jack ever thought possible. 1 year since a crying little girl walked up to him in a Walmart. 1 year since his whole world changed. 1 year since he discovered that the man he thought he'd buried was still alive somewhere inside him. Not the enforcer, not the intimidator, but someone better. Someone worth being. The Second Chance Network had grown beyond anything Jack imagined. What started as a storage room behind his motorcycle shop had become a full organization with 3 safe houses, a legal aid clinic, and a 24-hour hotline. Ghost had left his old firm to run the legal side full-time. Betty Morrison, the neighbor who had been too scared to speak for years, now volunteered every Tuesday and Thursday, answering phones and holding hands with women who reminded her of Sarah. I spent 3 years listening to that little girl scream and doing nothing, Betty told Jack once. Now I spend my days making sure no one else has to feel that helpless. It's not enough to make up for what I didn't do, but it's something. Jack understood that feeling better than anyone. The county courthouse had invited him to speak at their annual community safety conference. Jack had tried to say no. Public speaking wasn't exactly his strength, but Sarah and Emma had insisted. You have to tell people, Emma said firmly. She was 8 now, taller, more confident, but still his little girl. You have to tell them that scary-looking people can be heroes too. I'm not a hero, sweetheart. Yes, you are. You're my hero. And if you don't tell people, I will. Jack couldn't argue with that logic. So here he was, standing backstage at the county courthouse, his heart pounding harder than it had during any bar fight. Sarah squeezed his hand. You've got this, she said. I'd rather face a room full of rival gang members than give a speech. Too bad. Emma's already sitting in the front row. You can't disappoint her. Jack took a deep breath. How do I look? Sarah smiled and straightened his collar. He wasn't wearing his leather vest today, just a simple button-down shirt and clean jeans. He'd trimmed his beard. He looked almost respectable. You look like the man I love, Sarah said. Now get out there and change some minds. The auditorium was packed. Local officials, police officers, social workers, ordinary citizens. And right in the front row, Emma, bouncing with excitement, holding a homemade sign that read, That's my dad. Jack's throat tightened. He still wasn't used to that word, dad. Every time Emma said it, something inside him broke open and healed at the same time. He walked to the podium. The microphone squealed with feedback. He winced. Sorry about that. I'm better with motorcycles than microphones. A few polite laughs. Jack looked out at the crowd. All these faces. All these people who had probably judged him on sight 100 times before. Who had crossed the street to avoid him. Who had clutched their purses tighter when he walked past. A year ago, he began, I was buying gloves in a Walmart. That's it. That's all I was doing. Just buying gloves. And then a little girl walked up to me and said 4 words that changed my life. He paused. She said, Sir, I lost my mommy. The room was silent. Now I need you to understand something about that moment. I was the scariest person in that store. 6'4", covered in tattoos, former Hell's Angels. The kind of guy mothers pull their children away from. And this little girl, 7 years old, terrified, crying, she walked past every normal-looking person in that building and came straight to me. Jack's voice cracked slightly. He pushed through. Why? Because nobody else would stop. She had asked 5 different adults for help. A woman in yoga pants, a guy in a business suit, a grandmother with a shopping cart, a store employee. Not one of them stopped. Not one of them helped. They saw a crying child and they kept walking. He let that sink in. And then she got to me, the monster, the criminal, the guy everyone was afraid of. And I stopped. Not because I'm special, not because I'm a hero, but because for some reason, her trust broke through all the walls I'd built around myself. She looked at me like I was the only person in the world who could help her, and I couldn't walk away from that. Jack told them the whole story. Sarah's collapse, the threatening texts, the months of running, the custody battle, the courtroom explosion. He told them about Betty, too afraid to speak until it was almost too late. About Ghost, who gave up a comfortable job to fight for women who had nothing. About his employees, former gang members and recovering addicts, who now spent their nights guarding safe houses instead of causing trouble. I spent 22 years as a Hell's Angel, Jack said. I hurt people. I scared people. I did things I'm not proud of. And I told myself that was just who I was, that I couldn't change, that it was too late for me. He looked directly at Emma. That little girl proved me wrong. Emma beamed at him, tears streaming down her face. She showed me that it's never too late, that one moment of courage, one decision to help instead of hurt, can change everything. She didn't see a monster when she looked at me. She saw someone who might be willing to stop. And because she believed that, I became that person. Jack gripped the podium. In the past year, the Second Chance Network has helped 47 women and their children escape dangerous situations. 47 families who are safe tonight because someone was willing to stop when everyone else walked past. And it all started with a 7-year-old girl who was brave enough to ask a stranger for help. He paused. So here's what I want you to take from this. Stop walking past. Stop assuming someone else will help. Stop judging people by what they look like and start paying attention to what they do. Because you never know. The person who looks like a monster might be the one who saves you. And the person who looks respectable might be the one you need to run from. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. People were standing, some were crying. Jack saw police officers wiping their eyes. He saw social workers nodding. And he saw Emma running toward the stage, her sign forgotten on her chair. He caught her in his arms as she leaped. You did it, Dad. You told everyone. I had a good story to tell. It's our story. Yeah, sweetheart, it's our story. The reception afterward was overwhelming. Person after person wanted to shake Jack's hand, thank him for his speech, ask about the Second Chance Network. A police captain apologized for the department's failures in Sarah's case and asked how they could do better. A local business owner wrote a check for $10,000 on the spot. But the moment that hit Jack hardest came from a woman he'd never seen before. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes and a faded bruise on her cheek that makeup couldn't quite hide. She approached him hesitantly, like she expected to be turned away. Mr. Reynolds? Just Jack. Jack, I heard your speech and I think I need help. Jack saw Sarah watching from across the room. She nodded slightly. What's your name? Jack asked. Patricia. Okay, Patricia. Let's find somewhere quiet to talk. He spent the next hour listening to her story. It was different from Sarah's in the details, but the same in all the ways that mattered. A controlling husband, escalating violence, isolation from family and friends, the crushing belief that there was no way out. Everyone tells me I should just leave, Patricia said. Like it's that easy. Like I can just walk out the door and start over. They don't understand. I understand, Jack said, and we're going to help you. Not tomorrow, tonight, right now. Patricia started crying. Why? You don't even know me. Jack thought about that question. He'd been asked it so many times in the past year. Why do you help strangers? Why do you care? What's in it for you? Because a little girl asked me for help once, he said, and I learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop walking past. They got Patricia out that night. By midnight, she was in one of the safe houses, her children sleeping peacefully for the first time in months. By morning, Ghost had started the legal paperwork. Another family saved, another life changed. Jack drove home as the sun came up. Sarah and Emma were already asleep. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom for a moment, watching them breathe. 1 year ago, he had been alone. A man with a past he couldn't escape, trying to build a future he didn't believe he deserved. Now he had this, a woman who loved him despite everything, a daughter who saw a hero when she looked at his face, a purpose that made every day mean something. He was still a man with tattoos and a criminal record. He still scared people when he walked into a room. He still carried the weight of all the things he'd done before. But he carried something else now, too. Hope. 2 weeks later, Jack got a phone call that stopped his heart. "This is the Texas Department of Corrections," the voice said. "I'm calling about inmate Derek Mitchell." Jack stepped outside so Sarah and Emma wouldn't hear. "What about him?" "He's requested to speak with you, says it's urgent, says he has information about threats against your family." Jack's blood went cold. "What kind of threats?" He wouldn't say, only that he needs to tell you in person. Every instinct told Jack to refuse. This was a trap, a manipulation. Derek Mitchell was a master manipulator. Even from behind bars, he was trying to control the situation. But what if it wasn't a trap? What if there was a real threat? Could Jack afford to ignore it? "When?" Jack asked. "Tomorrow. Visiting hours start at 9. I'll be there." He didn't tell Sarah. He didn't tell Emma. He just left early the next morning, saying he had business to handle. The prison was exactly what he expected. Cold, gray, designed to crush the human spirit. Jack had spent a few nights in places like this during his wilder years. The memory made his skin crawl. Derek Mitchell looked different than he had in the courtroom. Thinner, older. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something Jack couldn't quite identify. They sat across from each other at a metal table, a guard watching from the corner. "You came," Derek said. His voice was flat. "You said there were threats." "There are." Derek leaned forward. "Not from me. I'm done. Finished. I'll spend the next 15 years in here, and when I get out, I'll be an old man nobody remembers. I've accepted that." "Then what?" "My business partner, Marcus Webb, he blamed me for the company collapsing, lost millions because of the scandal. He's been planning something. Revenge. Against you? Against everyone I cared about, which means Sarah, Emma." Derek's jaw tightened. "I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything. I know what I did to them. But there's still, Emma is still my daughter. I don't want her hurt because of my mistakes." Jack studied Derek's face, looking for the lie, looking for the angle. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I have nothing left to gain. No money, no power, no family. The only thing I have is the knowledge that my daughter is safe. And right now, she's not." "What do you know about Webb's plans?" Derek told him. Names, dates, a hired investigator who had been tracking Sarah and Emma's movements. A plan to kidnap Emma and demand ransom from Jack's organization. "The hit is scheduled for next week," Derek said, "when Emma walks to school. She does that now, right? Walks with 2 friends from the apartment?" Jack's blood turned to ice. How did Derek know that? Webb has people watching. He knows your routines. He knows when you're at the shop and when you're home. He knows everything. Jack stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. "Why didn't you go to the police?" "Who would believe me? I'm a convicted abuser, a prisoner. My word means nothing." Derek looked up at him with something that might have been genuine regret. "But you can protect them. You already have. So I'm giving you this information because it's the only way I can help her now." Jack stared at the man who had terrorized Sarah and Emma for years. The man who had chased them across 3 states. The man who had nearly destroyed them. And now that same man was trying to save them. "If you're lying to me," Jack said slowly, "I will come back here and make the rest of your 15 years very, very unpleasant." "I'm not lying. Check the names I gave you. You'll see I'm telling the truth." Jack left the prison and immediately called Ghost. "I need you to look into someone, Marcus Webb, former business partner of Derek Mitchell. Give me an hour." 45 minutes later, Ghost called back. "It's real, Hammer. Webb lost $8 million when Mitchell's company collapsed. He's been making threats all over town. And get this, he hired a private investigator 3 months ago. The same investigator Mitchell used to track Sarah." "Where is Webb now?" "His house is in River Oaks, but according to his credit card activity, he's been spending a lot of time near your neighborhood lately." Jack hung up and called the Guardian Angels, the network of former bikers who protected the safe houses. "We've got a situation. I need everyone at my shop in 1 hour. Full alert." He called Sarah next. "Hey, I was just about to call you," she said cheerfully. "Emma wants to know if we can have pizza for dinner tonight." "Sarah, listen to me carefully. Take Emma and go to Safe House 3, right now. Don't pack anything. Don't stop anywhere. Just go." The cheerfulness vanished from her voice. "What's happening?" "I'll explain later. Just trust me, please." "Okay, we're leaving now." "I love you." "I love you too." Jack assembled his team at the shop. 12 men, all former bikers, all reformed but still capable of handling themselves. He laid out everything Derek had told him. "So we're trusting the word of an abuser?" one of them asked. "We're verifying his information, and so far it checks out. Webb is real, the threat is real, and we're going to shut it down before anyone gets hurt." They found Webb's hired investigator that night, a nervous little man with a camera full of photos of Sarah and Emma, photos of the apartment, photos of Emma's school, photos of Jack's shop. The investigator talked fast when 12 angry bikers surrounded him in a parking garage. "Webb hired me. He just wanted surveillance. I didn't know he was planning anything violent." "When's the hit?" Jack asked. "I don't know. I just take pictures. I don't—" "When?" Tuesday morning, when the girl walks to school." That was 4 days away. Jack called a contact in the police department, one of the officers who had apologized at the conference. Explained everything. The cop promised to investigate, but Jack knew the legal system moved slowly. He couldn't wait for the legal system. On Tuesday morning, Emma didn't walk to school. She stayed home with Sarah at Safe House 3, guarded by 4 of Jack's most trusted men. Jack himself waited near the apartment building, watching, waiting. At 8:15 a.m., a black van pulled up to the curb. 2 men got out. They looked around, clearly searching for someone. When they didn't find their target, they got back in the van and drove away. Jack followed them. They led him to a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Webb's car was parked outside. Jack called the police. Then he called his team. "Warehouse on Industrial Road. I'm going in. Wait for backup. No time." Jack walked into that warehouse alone, not because he wanted to be a hero, but because some things couldn't wait. Webb was inside with 3 men. They were arguing about the failed kidnapping attempt. "She wasn't there. Someone tipped them off." "Then we try again tomorrow." "You won't try anything," Jack said. They spun around. Webb's face went pale when he saw who was standing there. "Reynolds, how did you—" "Derek told me everything." "Derek? That lying—" "He's not lying anymore. He's got nothing left to lie for. And you—" Jack stepped forward. "You're done." Webb's men moved toward Jack. He didn't flinch. "I've got 12 guys outside," Jack said calmly, "plus police on the way. So you can try to fight, and this ends badly for everyone. Or you can come quietly and maybe you'll see the outside of a prison cell again someday." Webb looked at his men. They looked at each other. One by one, they put their hands up. The police arrived 8 minutes later. Webb and his crew were arrested. The charges included conspiracy to commit kidnapping, stalking, and a dozen other things Ghost would sort out later. Jack walked out of that warehouse without a scratch. Sarah was waiting for him at Safe House 3. She threw her arms around him the moment he walked through the door. "Is it over?" "It's over." Emma ran up and hugged his legs. "Dad, they said you were in danger. They said bad guys were trying to get us." "The bad guys are going to jail, sweetheart. You're safe. We're all safe." That night, Jack sat on the roof of the safe house, watching the stars. Sarah found him there, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. "You could have been killed today," she said. "I wasn't. But you could have been. You walked into a warehouse full of criminals alone." "I've done worse." Sarah sat down beside him. "I know. That's what scares me." "Sarah, I'm not asking you to stop. What you do, the people you help, it matters. It saves lives. I would never ask you to give that up. Her voice cracked. "I can't lose you. Emma can't lose you. Not after everything." Jack put his arm around her. "You won't lose me, I promise." "You can't promise that." "Then I promise to try, every single day. I promise to come home to you and Emma. I promise to be careful. I promise to ask for help when I need it, instead of charging in alone like an idiot." Sarah laughed through her tears. "That's a lot of promises. I'm good for them." She leaned into him. "I know you are." They sat there until the sun came up. 2 people who had found each other through tragedy and built something beautiful from the wreckage. 1 year later, the Second Chance Network celebrated its 2nd anniversary. 300 people packed into the community center. Survivors, volunteers, police officers, judges, ordinary citizens who had learned to stop walking past. Sarah gave the opening speech. She talked about the night she collapsed in a Walmart bathroom, certain she was going to die. She talked about the stranger who saved her, the man who became her partner, her protector, her family. "Jack Reynolds taught me that it's never too late to change," she said. "That the person you were yesterday doesn't have to be the person you are tomorrow. That one act of courage can ripple outward and touch more lives than you can imagine." Then Emma took the microphone. She was 9 now. Confident, bright, unafraid. "My dad is the best person I know," she said simply. "Not because he's big or strong or tough, but because he stops. When everyone else walks past, he stops. And that's what makes a hero." Jack stood in the back of the room, tears streaming down his face. He thought about the man he used to be. The enforcer, the intimidator, the monster who made people cross the street. That man was gone. In his place stood someone different, someone who had learned that strength wasn't about how hard you could hit. It was about how gently you could hold the broken pieces of someone else's life and help them put it back together. Sarah found him after the speeches. She took his hand. "Ready to go home?" "Yeah." Emma grabbed his other hand. "Can we get ice cream on the way?" "Absolutely." They walked out together. A family built from courage and kindness, and the simple decision to stop when everyone else walked past. The same roads that had once led Jack into darkness now led somewhere else. Home. He had spent 22 years as a Hell's Angel, earning a reputation for violence and fear. He would spend the rest of his life earning something better. Because in the end, Jack Hammer Reynolds learned the truth that changed everything. The most powerful thing in the world isn't strength or money or fear. It's a little girl brave enough to ask a stranger for help, and a stranger brave enough to say yes.